How do you handle rejection in real estate? We all know that rejection is a part of real estate. We hear that frequently, but we don't talk a lot about handling rejection and the mindset you approach rejection with. And that's what I want to talk about today because, yes, inevitably, you are going to get rejected in real estate over and over. And when you're a new agent, it stings a lot more than when you've been doing it for years. And that's not because some people handle rejection better than others, although I do think that that's true. It's because you create muscle memory around it happening and it just doesn't hurt as much or really mean much of anything. And how you approach rejection is really going to determine how long it impacts you, how much it impacts you, and how you handle it. So let's first talk about the mindset around rejection. It is human nature to take rejection personally. And when you're in real estate, the mindset that I think is really important to work on is reminding yourself that 99% of the time, the rejection is not personal. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the timing in the buyer or seller's world. It has to do with not wanting to pay the fee that you charge. It has to do with needing more education and knowledge. Very, very rarely is it directed at you, the person, or me, the person. And I know it's easier said than done, especially when you are new to the business, to not take it personally. But that's something that you need to build that muscle over time and remind yourself that when you receive a no, a lot of times it's not even a no, it's a not right now. And that's something else to think about when you are absorbing that perceived rejection is, was it really a rejection, or is it's just a not right now? Now is not a time for me to buy or sell, or whatever the case is. And that's an important part of it too, because a lot of times, again, human nature, we hear, no, I'm not interested in that house, or no, I'm not ready to list. And we think, no permanent nail in the coffin. And that's not the case at all. It's a timing issue. Real estate is all about timing. And being able to filter through what their response is really saying is part of the ability to shift your mindset towards what you've just heard. And also a part of the mindset piece of rejection, which I would argue is the biggest piece of handling rejection, is also asking yourself if there is something in that quote unquote rejection that still leaves the door open. And I say that because how you handle the rejection is equally as important. We have to remain steady, we have to remain consistent, and we certainly don't want to project any negative emotions that we're feeling about the rejection onto our clients or potential clients. And that is a part of your mindset. If your mind is telling you, oh, you just got rejected, you got shut down, you got told no, it can bring a lot of negative emotions out. We're human, I get it. But that's not going to help you move through the rejection with professionalism and class. And how you respond after being rejected will be remembered, whether those people eventually become your clients or not, or remain your clients down the road. I cannot tell you how many times over the years I have had future clients or clients that I've already worked with before tell me no in a bunch of different words, but just for simplicity, no to something. Buying the house, selling their house and moving into something else. Or maybe I've done a lot of research for them, thinking about making a move from Western Loudoun, which is more suburbs, to being closer to DC in the Alexandria area. And I'll do a ton of research, they'll look into it, and then they'll decide now isn't the time. And it doesn't bother me at all. It's just a part of the business. It's part of doing my job. But it took years of training my brain to not perceive that as negativity. It's just a not right now. So I respond to them graciously and say, hey, it's absolutely no problem. I'm here to be a resource. And I deeply believe that, which is another piece of the mindset component of handling rejection. You have to believe and know deep in your heart that you are a resource to your clients for sure, but even to potential clients. Someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about relocating to your city from here, got a bunch of questions. Maybe you do a Zoom with them, and then they ultimately say, actually, we're not going to make this move. Is it rejection? Sure, but it has nothing to do with you. And you did exactly what you're supposed to do, and that is provide information, be there to be a resource for them, and it just didn't work out. You in real estate have got to keep getting up to bat. You cannot wallow in rejection for too long. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it's not the mindset that you have to approach this business with. And I think all too often in real estate, especially when you're new, the focus is around obviously generating leads and getting business, getting something under contract, getting, a rental done. It's putting those reps in. But within that, you also want to make sure that you are working on your mindset. Real estate is a tough business. It is not what the public thinks it is. I always laugh when someone is, trolling online about real estate agents are overpaid and whatever other horrible things people say. And these people have never been a real estate agent a day in their life. They have no idea how difficult this business is. And this business will literally kick you on your ass, run over you, back up, and run over you again. But within that, there will be these beautiful wins, and that's what makes it worth it. You cannot dwell on the fact that you were told no or not right now or flat out rejected. Within that, though, I do have another tip of working through rejection, and that is rejection is always an opportunity to look at if there's anything you could have done better. And sometimes the answer to that is no. Sometimes it has nothing to do with anything that you did. But sometimes you will find there are little tweaks you could make to a system. An example I would use is maybe you were in communication with someone who was thinking about buying. For whatever reason, they dropped off your radar. You weren't following up the way that you normally would be. You reach back out, you get in touch with them, and they say, oh, thanks so much for reaching out. We just bought a house last week. And within that, there is a lesson to take of where did my communication break down so that I don't risk losing a potential buyer or a seller again. And I think the longer that you've been in the business, the less likely that is to be the case, just because with each year, you should be dialing in your systems more and more so that you don't have holes like that. But when you're brand new, it's going to happen. And it's just a part of the learning curve. And that's okay too. But I do think it's always worth, even all these years later, if I have someone who I think is going to be a buyer or a seller, and for whatever reason something falls through, it's not follow up in my case, but it could be just their situation changes. It could be that they decide to list with another agent who charges less. It could be just a variety of factors. Maybe we weren't even a good fit on our initial Zoom consultation. That's always a possibility too. Whatever it is, I still like to reflect and go, is there anything that I could change about the process or how I presented different options or insert whatever reason here, just to make sure that my business continues to be strong and run as seamlessly as it possibly can. None of us wants to get rejected. We spend a lot of time nurturing people to turn them into clients. And when that ultimately leads to a rejection, it doesn't feel that great, but it's just part of the business. You have to remove the personal feelings from it. And personally, I think that's one of the things that makes real estate really difficult is that we have to Not we have to, but I believe we should be nurturing and really like full service concierge to our clients. And that can mean a lot of different things. It can mean being their therapist, it can mean literally listening to them cry over something that's happening in their life that's causing this move. It's not always happy. And even when it is happy, it's still stressful. We're talking about a lot of money. People, in most cases, their biggest asset. And we don't always get the best of people. But within that, we are also business owners and having to make these tough business decisions. So we can go from, at noon, nurturing a client and getting them through whatever it is they're stressing or upset about, to 1 p.m., having to make financial decisions for our business that emotions don't belong in. And all of that ties into being an agent. And if you want to be a really good agent, you really have to wear a lot of different hats. And rejection is not one that requires any level of feelings. Rejection cannot be perceived as personal or emotional. And the more that you train your brain to understand that within the real estate world, this really doesn't apply in your personal life. Of course, it's personal if someone rejects you in your personal life. But as a real estate agent, it's not the same. It really is a part of the business. And I know you've probably heard that a million times already. And I do agree with that. What I don't think is talked about nearly enough is working through that rejection. And when you are new to the business, it's very easy to let it get you down, let it slow up your progress. And you can't do any of that. You give yourself a set amount of time to process the rejection, and then you've got to let it go and move on to whatever is next to move your business forward. You can't let it just get you down for, a week at a time. Let's say a deal falls through. And when you're new, a deal falling through is like, it's raw. It sucks. I remember those feelings vividly. And at the same time, I realized quickly that I couldn't keep dwelling on what fell apart or what didn't work out, because I needed to keep building my pipeline in order to continue to have closings as consistently as possible. And if you're willing to work on your mindset, you're willing to make sure that you are also analyzing your business procedures within that, you can release that very, very quickly, because you train your brain. Your brain is a muscle, and you train it to how you're going to react, or in this case, I would say how you're not going to react. You're not going to make a big deal out of it. You're not going to beat yourself up. You're not going to take anything personally. You're going to view it as the business. It's part of the business you're in, it's part of the business you're running. And if you're dwelling on it, it's only going to hurt you more. You've got to let it go. It is going to happen. I promise you that. The more business you're doing and the longer you do this, the more it's going to happen. And then eventually you reach a point where it really doesn't happen all that much. I think it's a different story if you're, cold calling or door knocking. You're going to hear no a ton. Depends on the lead generation strategy you pick. But if you're building an attraction based business and you are growing your database with people that you have relationships with, friendships with, over time that compounds and it grows, and you have this incredibly powerful database of people who want to work with you, want to refer you. They are your cheerleaders. It's their honor to help you grow your business and send you those referrals. It happens less and less. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen at all. It still happens here and there. But if you can get through those initial, like I call them teeth cutting years, like 3 to 5 years, and you work your ass off and you get in the trenches, you know you're going to take some hits, but you keep going and you don't let it just completely knock you out of real estate altogether, it will pay off tenfold. And you will reach a point where hearing no, you don't even perceive it as no. Someone could tell me, I'll give you an example from last week. I negotiated for almost a week for buyers of mine and got this incredible deal put together, but ultimately they just weren't comfortable with it. They wanted it for another 10,000 lower, and that was a no-go for the seller. Negotiations were over. It was done. And I didn't even really think twice about it. They let me know that I know this isn't what anybody wants to hear, but we're just not comfortable moving forward. I said, thanks so much for letting me know. I'll let the listing agent know and we'll keep looking. It really was that basic. And you will get there too, as long as you are putting that work in to train your brain that rejection is just a part of the business and it's not personal. They're not rejecting you as a person. They are rejecting the timing or the property or insert a million other reasons that it could be within real estate. If you have any questions about how to handle rejection or if you're struggling with rejection, drop them in the comments below, or you can always message me on Instagram. You'll find me at Amanda S. Davidson. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.